Well, no stream today. Having some technical difficulties first with Discord and now with my streaming software, so I don't know what's going on with that. But, streaming, be darned. We're going to continue. We're going to record, and we got a fantastic lineup today. So we're joined by not one, not two, but three guests in the podcast for the first time. So first up is Jay.
Hello.
And then we have returning podcast guest, Dan.
Good evening, afternoon, morning, depending on where you are.
And then we have first time podcast guest, RaGe. How are you doing, RaGe?
I knew it'd do it. Absolutely fabulous.
All right. That was for the Formula Fun fans out there.
Of which they are in this recording.
Yeah, they're all here.
Yeah. I'm apparently getting drop frames still on record. I think that's old. I hope that's old notifications. I hope I'm not dropping frames on a recording.
We're rolling with it. Come on.
Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, so we got the Spanish Grand Prix this past weekend. I know some people probably slept through it. But there was some good action. Depends on where you were looking. So I guess we can jump right into it with practice. Not much going on in practice. About the only newsworthy thing was Robert Kubica and Roy Nissany replacing a couple drivers in FP1. And I don't know, do you guys have any thoughts on Robert Kubica, Roy Nissany? We'll start with Robert Kubica.
It's always good to see him back in an F1 car, right? I think it's just a shame it didn't quite go to plan, right?
There's a little excursion into the gravel, wasn't there?
Yeah. Caused the red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's good to see him back in. I think, unfortunately, from what we saw of his actual race season, it's not anything that's going to go any further than a reserve seat, I don't think. But it keeps him sharp, and with coronavirus still at large, it's very possible that we'll see some reserve drivers again this year. So yeah, good to see them out.
Is everyone in the paddock vaccinated at this point? Do we know?
Don't think they've said.
I know
That's
that
a good question.
I know that IndyCar is like 90% vaccinated, like from the drivers down to the people that just do media and stuff.
I know that Bahrain offered to vaccinate them,
And they all said no.
they turned it down, didn't they? Yeah.
I think Carlos Sainz said yes, didn't he?
I think it would depend on your country of origin, I guess. I mean, anybody that's living in the UK or is registered to the NHS in the UK, but none of them would have qualified yet, I would have thought. So,
Is there no famous person skip the line?
I mean, there probably is, right? But
Surely the FIA would have just bought a allocation of them.
Can they do that? Can private entities buy vaccines?
Okay. Just some regular podcasts that I know, but obviously not in the UK. They've been able to buy their own vaccines, and there's other sporting places that have been able to buy their own vaccines. UFC have done it.
Interesting.
I mean, you're the expert on privatized healthcare, right, Fox? So.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think a few of them have been vaccinated, but from a quick Google search, I think most of them turned it down and said they'll just wait their turn.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I know that as soon as I was available, I took it. But
oh yeah, straight away.
Yeah.
I think Red Bull's drivers are vaccinated, apparently.
That's good. They're looking for consistency.
So all Red Bulls and AlphaTauris are.
No, that's the vaccination against Helmut Marko's rubbish.
Okay.
I don't.
They've got to make sure that they keep the airwaves free of all of the crud that comes out of that guy's mouth, right?
I don't think that is how that works. I don't think vaccines works that way. So I think...
Do you remember at the very beginning of the pandemic, Helmut Marko was just like, "I want my boys to get it. I want them to go out and get it," and then he quickly backtracked on that statement.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, we think they should just get it. Yeah.
It's like they're young boys; they'll be fine.
I guess his thought process was get it before the season, and then they won't have to worry about it in the season. I understand the thought process, but yeah, no, that's not cool.
We could play the F1 driver COVID bingo if you want, as to who's had it.
That's true, yeah.
I think moving back to FP1.
Yeah, go on.
I think the only other
Sorry,
thing
it's just
that
RaGe's
happened-
presence here is immediately
Well,
making me want to derail.
Right.
Before we move on, Roy Nasani. Does anyone have any thoughts on Roy Nasani? And do you think he's gonna get a seat in F1, or is he just there to pay the bills?
In a world where you have Nikita Mazepin taking up a seat, anything is possible. But I think unless you've got the money, he's got the money behind him. I don't see him taking up a race seat. Unless George gets promoted up to the big leagues next season, I can't see there being a seat for him anywhere other than Williams.
That's actually a good question. What do Williams do if Russell is promoted and presumably replaces Bottas? Does Bottas come back to Williams? Does he get shipped off somewhere else? And who comes in to replace it with Williams' seat?
Isn't it written in that Callum Ilott comes in and takes place?
Is it?
He is
I thought it was
Alfa
Ferrari.
Romeo.
Alfa
Yeah.
Romeo.
Oh, was he Alpha? Okay.
Is
Who
it
was it? Didn't he
Jack
do?
Aiken?
I was Aiken. Sorry, I'm getting my Ilots and my Aikens crossed.
Very easy to do.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Actually, I wouldn't. It's got to be one of those sort of rookies, right? Into the Williams at this point.
Yeah, Aiken's still reserve, I think. So
I just realized the potential problem with recording this. You guys aren't going to be able to see the memes later, so I'm going to post them right now in the discussion chat while you guys are talking.
Actually, news just in. I heard Jake Dennis is in the lineup.
I don't think we mentioned that, but yeah, he won a Formula E race, Jake Dennis of Formula Fun fame. He won a Formula E race, so.
he did.
Jake Dennis,
Fucking Dennis.
if you're out there and you would like to be on a podcast, please let me know. DM me over at Foxworth Auto. I don't think our DMs are open.
Great.
That'll work.
just
Can you
follow
imagine
us.
it, on the completely off chance that the one time he was watching it, and for some reason decided he wanted to stoop this low?
Just leave a comment down below. If some guy, we're not gonna believe. There's gonna be a guy named Jake Dennis that comments down below. And we're not gonna believe it.
Nope.
Just like the next Formula E interview. Yeah, I was trying to get on this podcast, but they never responded to my comment on their YouTube video. So I think the last thing about practice to talk about is the turn 10 change. That was the first time we saw the change, which of course was implemented for safety reasons in MotoGP, nothing to do with Formula One. And obviously there's been a couple drivers that had issues getting that turn right, going into the gravel a couple times. So what do you guys think about the turn 10 change?
I think it's difficult to know until you drive it, right? It didn't really seem to make much difference in the race. The spins were due to it being fairly new tarmac down, I think. But even so, there weren't too many of them. I would imagine it has the opposite effects on racing because it increases the entry speed. It was actually an okay overtaking spot there because of the heavy braking zone, which it takes some of that away. So can't really see it much benefit. Don't think I saw any moves down into there in the race. So
There was one particular move that we'll get to later.
Wasn't there always a wider part to that?
Wider, yeah.
Yeah, is the change not that they're
I think they
using
added,
the wider bit rather than they've added track?
No, so that whole area is gone now, and it's in roughly the same place, I think.
Right. Okay.
It's
I was
just much wider.
Oh, you
Yeah.
guys can't see the stream again. Here, let me post a picture of the turn 10 change in the
It's a
discussion.
much more wider
go.
apex now.
to picture it. Yeah.
There you
It's
go.
not a hard pinch anymore. It's
It's
a
in
little bit more
discussion
open.
F1 now. Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the change. I think there was obviously tarmac out there as a runoff, but I think they put down.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah, you're right, Dan. Sorry, they are using the wider one.
Yeah. So I think they
I
did.
mean, I've run wide there enough in every sim I've ever raced in, so
Is it faster? Is it the optimal line?
it is not.
So yeah, it was mainly to cut down on MotoGP crashes at that turn. But I mean, I don't understand. Like, it's still there. I guess they just didn't want to use the tighter turn for F1. I don't know if it's like if it's not usable, if it's not like kept up because they
Yeah.
changed it, but I'm not 100% sure. Because like on you know whenever you're watching the race, there was still tarmac there, but or asphalt or whatever. So I don't know why they wouldn't opt to use it. I guess maybe they wanted to try out the new layout.
It doesn't
Yeah.
look. It doesn't look like it is there. I'm just looking at a few pictures.
Oh, is it not?
It's not really the same. There seems to be like some almost concrete or some very light grey tarmac in the middle.
Oh, okay. Maybe they
So
did completely get rid of it.
yeah, it does look different, but
I
I'm sure
mean,
it's better to drive. But
Yeah.
yeah, ultimately, I don't think it made too much of a difference. It's not like they've turned it into one of the sort of epic, longer, faster corners like like at Turkey, right? It's just they've swapped a low speed corner for a medium speed corner, and it didn't really do much, right?
Mm-hmm.
no,
So
I mean it'd be interesting once we drive it in something. How turn 12 is, because you're going to be
Yeah.
carrying a lot more speed once you get there. That's
Yeah.
a really tricky corner anyway. Let's say from a driving perspective, I think it's probably better from a racing point of view. It doesn't really help what
Yeah.
was already a pretty
Yeah.
bad track for overtaking.
I mean, yeah.
It might
I
make
always
a
spin
big
out on turn
difference.
11. Always.
It might make a big difference next year, right? With the new regs, where the cars are supposed to be better at following. So maybe it'll pay dividends later. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see.
So, anything else before we move on? Anyone on fire rage?
I was watching in peasant view, so I didn't see any fires, to be honest.
Okay. You
There
watch?
was only the traditional Mazda spin, wasn't there, in FP1?
I think there was. Yeah, I didn't feel like bringing it up again for a fourth or fifth straight podcast. Fifth straight podcast on the fourth race. Yeah.
It's a regular feature, and it needs its own jingle at this point.
Don't tempt me. I will go out and get a jingle.
I mean, you'll get your use out of it. I can guarantee it.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to qualifying. Was kind of a standard qualifying session. Nothing too exciting. Norris got P1 and Q1. There was a broken side mirror for Latifi, and of course, our best friend Mazepin blocked Norris on his first fast lap. So, anything in particular you guys want to start with?
I mean, Mazepin, you'd expect.
Really?
It's just, I mean, it's this is why he's getting so much hate, isn't it? Or so much leveled against him, because it's not just the spinning, it's not just the incompetency of driving, it's the complete lack of awareness in situations such as qualifying. Like, I can't believe that Haas's engineers are bad enough that they're not telling them over the radio that there's someone there. He's just not bothering. And it's criminal, really. I can't see how he can get away with it for much longer. I mean, I think Dan was saying off air not long ago, but it's going to be a matter of time before he gets, or you could do run bingo on which race you think he's going to get a race ban for.
That's you know what? That should probably be something we do on this podcast. Take bets.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's great to see Norris up there again.
Yeah.
As we'll get on to a bit later in qualifying, there's other things he needs to improve at, but it seems that he learns the track and finds the time better than anyone else, which is not a bad thing. It's really going to help him in situations where you have a changing track condition or something, and you have maybe one lap to get it in. There's going to be situations where it really comes to him, but very impressive again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another note on the Mazepin blocking him. It was so because there's two cars right ahead of him that were clearly pulling off the road, and then he was right there with them, and then as soon as Norris got to the back of him, he pulled out. I don't understand why he pulled out then.
I think he just thinks he's on a different racetrack. It's just complete incompetency. If it happened once, this kind of thing, you'd say, it's a rookie error, or, he was looking at something else in the car or changing a setting, but, they'll be over the radio telling him what he's supposed to be doing with traffic, and he's just ignoring it, which is, not a glowing review of him. Not that there's many of those.
Anything to add, Dan?
It's not a passing thing. You can tell at this point, we're far enough into the season that this is just someone who's just way out of his depth, right?
Yeah.
I can't see. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. I hope in some ways. I hope I am, and he'll pick it up soon. But I can't see it. I've not seen someone this out of his depth before ever. Maybe since like Eddie the Eagle, right? I think.
Who?
And this is way less endearing. There's a guy who who did the Winter Olympics as a
Oh,
ski jumper, as a complete amateur. There's a movie with Wolverine.
Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
Hugh Jackman, yeah, it's really funny. It's a good movie, and he's a character in real life. But yeah, he was just famously bad at ski jumping, and he was there just because he loved the Olympics, and he's always dreamed of competing, right? And he went and made it happen. But I think with Mazepin, he's a lot less endearing a character than Eddie the Eagle.
yeah. No.
Also, and he's not wasting 50-60 million pounds of money to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, his
That's
only
my
saving
opinion.
grace right now is that money they're spending to keep Haas alive, right? I think that's
Yeah.
the only benefit to his presence at the moment is we've got the team on the grid with Mick Schumacher in the car, who is performing brilliantly in that car, to be honest.
Do you guys think it has something to do with all the negative media that's coming out about him, or do you think he's just like ignores all that and he still is having all these issues?
I think as Dan said, it's you would maybe think that at the beginning, and I certainly thought that at the beginning. I thought maybe he's getting so much publicity for all the I mean, I strongly believe he shouldn't be an F1. Taking driving out of the equation. He shouldn't have even started the season for those other reasons. But because it's gone on this long now, there's absolutely no chance that's what's causing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can't help. It is the publicity thing, or the reporting element, right? He'll be saying all the same news and the same comments that everyone else is saying. So it's possible that's having an effect. But, if he was a good enough driver, he would have shown something by now.
Yeah, you look at all the negative press around Bottas, right? And he's still finishing in the top 3. Yeah, he's in a significantly better car, but if negative media really got to you at that level, you would expect it to have affected him more than it has, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you would have seen a lap somewhere, or a qualifying session where he's got close to Mick, and it's just not happened at all. So
yeah, like his fastest laps from this race. So Nikita's fastest lap was a 1:24.040. Whereas Mick Schumacher, that was the 19th fastest lap. The only fast lap slower than that was Yuki. Mick Schumacher did the 12th fastest lap in a 1:22.637. Like, that's a huge gap. You can that's
night and day,
insane.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mick did a faster lap than Seb Vettel, Giovinazzi, Kimi Raikkonen, Latifi and Russell, Ocon and Tsunoda. So that was a mega lap from Mick, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and at the same time, it's like you're almost glad that Mick gets to go up such easy competition, so he looks good. But at the same time, it really doesn't matter how he does against Mazepin because it's not a actual benchmark for him.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not going to hurt Mick, right? I think.
No.
But yeah, if he was up against somebody as strong as he is, or then it would be much more of a showcase for his talent. If he was up against Grosjean or Magnussen, or sort of any of Gutierrez, any of the ex-Haas drivers.
Yeah. And I still can't believe I don't know if I'm talking out my butt, but I feel like I read an article somewhere that Mazepin said that the goal was to be world champion in 2022 with the RaGe changes. and I don't know if that was a joke article, but like, I don't know how you can be so delusional about your talent that you can say something like that. It was before the
Well, I think
season started. But still.
most of us have met people that have spent their whole life being told they're the best at everything they do, and as a result of that, they're absolutely insufferable, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe there's a little bit of that going on there. That is, I mean, it could be a joke. Maybe he does have a better sense of humor than I assume.
Well, I didn't mean
Um,
like a joke coming from him. I didn't know if someone wrote like a parody article. Like, I don't think that he would say a joke like that. If he said that, he probably meant it. But no,
yeah, I mean, maybe it was, but
I was
Yeah, I
about
mean-
to say his type of joke is something else, but I don't feel like calling him out again for what he did
I don't think
preseason.
he's that bad. If you look at his, I know
Oh
this is a
gosh.
bit like no. I'm just being devil's advocate here. Like if you look at
Is
his
this the
previous,
Hitler did nothing wrong?
no. I mean that's a different conversation. So looking back at his previous results in other Formula GP3 series in 2018, he came second and he had 3 wins. And what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 podiums. He came 5th in Formula 2. So he's not disastrous. He even got 2 wins in Formula 2 in 2020. And
No,
that's meant
but
to
I
lift
think
next
that
series, isn't it?
I think the point is as we know, people either make or break when they step up to F1, and he clearly hasn't shown anything to step up.
I mean,
Yeah.
how many races are we in now? 4?
4.
yeah. And he did. It was him in the F2, I think, a year ago, where he got like a 4 points on his license for that
Yeah.
just insane crash in Russia.
Yes, almost killed 2 people.
Yeah, exactly. Like he does in previous Formula, he has shown some speed. I mean, if you ask any of the guys that have won GP2 and not got a seat in F1, I think they'll say and agree with me that he's not fast enough based on his performances there for F1 if they weren't, right? But he's always been dangerous.
I only
And I
just
think
remembered that I didn't put on music. All right, continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's nobody gets this far without having some talent, of course.
I mean, he's faster than I would be, right? I think.
yeah, exactly.
And he fits in the car, unlike me. I'll
But-
get wedged in the halo.
yeah, same. But yeah, it's there has to be. You just know with drivers if they've got it or not in Formula One, and I think it comes hand in hand with so many people's frustrations of those people that are missing out on seats, as you say, those GP2 champions, those drivers that clearly are quick enough that don't get the seats, and it's bringing. We've been quite lucky the last few years in terms of having paid drivers that have, to be fair, been fairly talented, but now we are back very much to a paid driver that shouldn't be there, or there's so many more people deserving of that seat. But Haas knew what they were doing. They knew that he was being brought in because of the money, because they weren't going to develop the car this year. They just wanted the money to cover the season, which he does in that regard. So as long as he doesn't write off 10 cars and wipe out the 50 million or whatever that they've given for the seat, then they know they were going to be at the back. They know they probably weren't going to get any points this season, so it's not really hurting them.
We don't know if there's some sort of deal where he pays for the repairs,
Oh, sort of like the opposite of a success clause. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just can't see us being proved wrong. I think that's ultimately it. Like nearly every other driver on the grid, I can see us in a few years potentially having the conversation. Russell might win the world championship. Giovinazzi won that race. And, you can see it in some of these other drivers, but I can't see us talking about that miraculous Nikita victory in Australia 2022. I just can't see it.
Screams in Maldonado.
Well, that's it. I mean, even Maldonado, right?
Yeah.
He crashed a lot, but he was fast, and you could see it that he was fast.
Yeah.
And
So
you just don't see it.
So speaking of rookies and other stuff, and so switching from like Mazepin, so eliminated was Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Schumacher, Latifi, and Mazepin, and so the shock was kind of Tsunoda, and obviously Raikkonen being down there, but the Alfa Romeo is, some weekends it's Q1, some weekends it's Q2 material. But I think the big shock was Tsunoda and that AlphaTauri not making it into Q2 for how many times now? Was he in Q2 last week?
Pass.
He crashed in Imola, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Crashed in Imola,
Yeah.
If there's any rookie that has had such a swing in favor, it probably is him, because like from the first race, everyone was in love with Tsunoda and his aggression and his driving style, and I almost thought that would take all the pressure off of him. Like that would make it so that he would have such a successful rookie year, because it's like he already made a statement. He doesn't need to do anything else. And then since then, he's not shown anything. And in fact, he's made a lot of mistakes. So.
Well, he's the ultimate rookie, isn't he? He's very, very, very young. Maybe brought in a season before he should have. But he has shown those sparks. And that's what you want. You don't expect them to hit the ground and get everything up and running and perfect straight away. He's just having a few races. He's probably just been asked to dial it back a little bit to, get some experience, and it will knock your confidence having the instance he's had. But I wouldn't be too worried about it. He's a really quick guy, and as he gets more and more experienced, it will come to him. He's got an incredibly difficult teammate in Gasly. But he did get himself into a bit of trouble after qualifying, though.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up. He was very, very critical of the car. He was not happy at all with the performance, and
He essentially said that he thought he had a different car to Gasly.
Yeah, and that's
and started questioning if he was being given the same car.
That's not something that you say in the Red Bull ladder.
It's like Ferrari of old, right? You don't badmouth the car.
But it's a Ferrari. It cheats.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It's why you love. It's why he gained all that attention in the first race, right? He is passionate and fiery and loud, and on the face of it, quick, but he overstepped in Barcelona, and I think he would have had a bit of a battering from Helmut and Franz that evening, and be told to very much wind his neck in for a couple of races.
Definitely, yeah. That was like, as a fan, you love to hear that sort of thing, but it's definitely something that you're like almost cringe at. You're like, ooh, it's not good. Not good for your livelihood in that team moving forwards.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I think he's done enough right so far. He's just got to, get back on top of his own head, really. Just concentrate on doing the right things, and it will come back to him. He's got the speed. That's not the question mark, and he's got overtaking ability. He's just lost his way for a few races, really. And that is a car that you have to have the experience to learn how to set up the car, how to drive it, and Gasly is performing at his maximum every race because it's his team, and it will be his car. So give him some time.
And they've reclassified that team as the sister team. So I'm imagining that it's gonna. The plan for 2022 is almost to make it an equal car, pretty much, trying to get it up there, making maybe not like a race winning car every week, but like a podium contender, as I imagine is what their eventual goal is.
I really don't know what the situation is with AlphaTauri anymore in terms of how they go about their car. Obviously, to begin with, it was very much they got the old Red Bull, or as much parts as they could transfer, but they're becoming more and more of their own entity in recent years. But I don't know if anyone else knows, but I don't really know how much involvement Red Bull still do have.
I think it's increased again this year, hasn't it? I think they're now buying more of the car as a percentage than they were before.
I mean, it would
Probably.
make sense, wouldn't it? Then
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever going to quite match Red Bull. But having them up there is better for their junior drivers when they're preparing them, and it's better for the brands, isn't it? So it would make sense for them to take as much as they're allowed.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like they're aiming for them to be the new Force India, right? The team that always overperforms their budget.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, we're moving into Q2. I feel like one of the shocks for me was Gasly went from like a P5 in Q1 and to be getting eliminated in Q2. And it just kind of shocked me a little bit that I feel like AlphaTauri has that top 5 car every weekend almost, and they just never seem to deliver it.
Well, Spain was definitely harder for them. They spoke afterwards, and Gasly spoke that the car didn't perform here as they were expecting.
But in a much
and-
nicer way, probably. Much better.
No, I think that was literally what they said.
Well, no, I meant like much nicer than what Tsunoda said.
Oh, yeah. I don't mean he didn't say he had a different car. But yeah, it just didn't suit them for whatever reason. They've been right up there so far and not really capitalized on it. But they're all learning with these cars still.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Gasly's at the absolute top of his game, which would be exciting to see that car get closer to the front. I think it's his best chance of staying there long term, really. So
Absolutely. So just real quick, I'll just say the eliminated of Stroll, Gasly, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Russell. So I think the only real shocker is Gasly. And I guess the Aston Martins, they thought that they were going to get into Q3 pretty consistently from here on out after the upgrades, and they've obviously just missed out with both cars. So any thoughts on Aston Martin?
Yeah, there's some unsettling news and comments coming out over the weekend, I think, from I can't remember who said it. An ex-F1 driver who's famously blunt.
Jack Villeneuve.
I was going to say, is it Jack Villeneuve?
In an endearing way.
Gerhard Berger?
Oh, Hardy has joined the chat. Welcome to the chat, Hardy.
Hi.
I didn't notice you pop in. We're not streaming, by the way. The stream was not working, so we're just recording.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Sorry, continue, Dan.
Yes. But they were saying that apparently the atmosphere at Aston Martin under Lawrence Stroll is not great. The engineers didn't want to go in this direction last year, and their hands were sort of forced. And they're reaping what they sowed last year. This year. And
So is that? Go on.
Yeah, I mean, if that's true, that's. I mean, that doesn't sound good for the team's future, right?
Yeah, right. And that's interesting because that seems to suggest that Lawrence Stroll essentially came into the team and said, "Build a Mercedes." It kind of sounds like what he's done there. But they were always going to pay for it. Right? There's a reason people don't just copy a car identically like they do, because they just don't understand it. And especially with the rule changes that came this year, as you say, they're reaping what they sow. Absolutely, it's they don't understand the car; they just copied it. So therefore, to adjust it to a new regulation, they equally don't know what they're doing. So, you see from the back end stuff of Netflix when Stroll was at Williams, right? Like the kind of character he is in the garage and with the team bosses and stuff. It can't be healthy. And equally, I think it's probably pretty difficult for Seb as well. with Lawrence and Lance in those positions, and he's probably being reminded how much they're paying him all the time as well from Lawrence. But it's a shame. But the core of the team there are not different. They're the same engineers, they're the same designers, they're the same people that have always done so well. And next year they've got a massive budget, which they've never had before. So, there's every chance. They're just struggling this year, as you say, because of last year.
Yeah, it's the last year of the regulations as well. So it's not necessarily something you want to put a huge amount of investment in. But I feel like Aston Martin wanted to come in like they were James Bond, and they ended up being the Bond villain.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you start talking about suing the FIA or for their regulation changes and all that stuff, you're gonna come off badly, right? No other team is moaning about it. It's just sour grapes. Like, we borderline cheated last year and we're getting punished for it this year. I'm gonna sue you. Like, well, yeah, it's not a good look, right?
It's literally a law change, and you just try to sue it. It's like, it's maddening, isn't it? That they think that they could get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this has to be it for their season, right? I think they're going to, from a budget perspective, they've got and a resource perspective, they've got to turn around and be like, 4 races in, it's not getting any better. Let's just ditch it for this year and focus on 22. I don't really see the point for them at this point in continuing to try and improve a car that is obviously not really worth the effort.
Yeah. Didn't Red Bull and Mercedes pretty much say that, like, in the next couple months they're done developing the cars for their season?
Well, they're playing chicken with each other, right? They're gonna they're just gonna be guessing on which one of them's the first one to stop and hope that they do one upgrade package more than the next guy.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like they could one up each other so much that someone like McLaren or Ferrari could be the next dominant power in 2022.
Absolutely, it's
good to see.
The case is 2008, 2009, isn't it? It's the one that's being banded around at the moment. That's exactly why the likes of Ferrari and McLaren got caught out, because they were stuck in such a close title fight in 2008. They just had to keep developing to try and take that championship. I genuinely think you'll see every team apart from the top 2 stop. If they've not stopped already, they'll be stopping in the next few races. Development. There's absolutely no point for them. There's such an opportunity next year to steal a march. And that platform is the new platform, right? And as we've seen from the last couple of eras, that whoever gets ahead then, that could be the next 4 or 5 years they're ahead. Potentially. So, they've got to shift, and I think you'll see all of them doing it in the next few races, apart from the top 2 that, as you say, that it'll be a game of chicken.
Definitely.
How much do Red Bull want that title, right?
Yeah, and is it a case of get it now or maybe wait another 5 years? It's like
it's a very real possibility.
Yeah, you never want to pass up an opportunity.
And in both cases they lose Max Verstappen to the faster team, right? I think they're in a tricky position. If they don't win this year and they're not fast next year, then he's definitely going to leave. And then if they do win this year and then they suffer for it for the next couple, he'll also leave. It's a difficult position for them to be in. So I think they have to go for the win at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on Q2 before we move on? That was Q2 discussion, clearly.
No, not really.
Right. So
Giovinazzi impressing again, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Giovinazzi is someone that thankfully they gave another year to, and I don't know if it's Raikkonen being in just showing his age or if Giovinazzi is having a breakout season. So be interesting to see as it goes along. So moving on to Q3, the final, the big event for Spain, the one that matters. So I just want to do what we did last time, or 2 times ago, which was some winners and losers. And I feel like we'll just start with the picture that I pulled, which is Perez's spin, and then subsequently he didn't make it into the top 4. How do you guys feel about Perez's performance? I mean, obviously he had a shoulder injury, and I think he was sick as well, so I think it was just an off weekend for him, just from the outset. But do you think it's starting to get to the time where there's flashes of Gasly and Albon?
No, his performances today have been stronger than that. You can see from Bahrain, just on its own, that he's capable in that car. You look at Gasly's performances at Kvyat. These guys are quick drivers, and they were put in the Red Bull, and they struggled to adapt to it. I think that's all we're seeing from Perez, and I think with his experience, he should be more than capable of picking it up as it goes. And then if he doesn't, this is his last season in Formula One. I think that's the stakes for him. So I don't see him, stagnating like we're potentially seeing with Sebastian Vettel, the Aston.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one qualifying performance in Imola, was it Imola?
Imola, yeah, the P2.
Yeah. Was already more than any other driver has shown next to Max Verstappen since Ricciardo. So that on its own, I think, is enough to show that he's capable. It's with him, I think it's going to be a mental battle all season of, as you've just alluded to, obviously it is his almost last chance, or will definitely be his last chance at a top team. A lot of other people would potentially settle in as a second driver there and just concentrate on themselves, but I think he will always be putting pressure on himself to try and match Max. So,
yeah. And it's Max Verstappen's team at the moment. I think Jenson Button was talking about it on Sky F1 on Sunday, with reference to sort of him and Lewis at McLaren, and he was saying that Lewis struggled at McLaren because Jenson worked with the team and made it into his team, and he sort of led the direction of the car, and that made someone with the caliber of Lewis Hamilton have a tricky couple of seasons. So I think Sergio coming in to a Red Bull team that is built around Max Verstappen is always going to struggle to adapt in the first season or so.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of chance for some good results for him. He's just got to sort his head out again. It's a recurring theme with a lot of these drivers on my comments on them, but it is such a mental game at times. And he gets a couple of results that goes his way, and he's definitely a quick enough driver to not match Max every weekend, but at least be getting results that are better than they've had previously from second drivers.
Sure.
He's too good for that to not get that at some point, I think.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Typer?
That was RaGe.
I'm so sorry. I thought I was going to silently just chipping away. I'm so sorry.
Good. Any thoughts, Hardy or RaGe, on Perez?
What were you talking about?
Or we're talking about Perez. Any comments, RaGe or Hardy?
Yeah, I was waiting, but yeah. I mean, I'll go first if you want.
Oh, me and Dad have just spoken.
Yeah, it's you or Hardy. You're up next.
Yeah, you can go ahead, RaGe.
It's okay. I'm just making it as awkward as possible. Should we have a bit more silence?
Yeah.
I think it's just a development struggle. If you think he's never raced, or at least for the past, I don't know how many seasons, he's been in a Mercedes. So he's not used to any of like the torque settings or the power settings or any kind of setting at all. There was a really cool video from Imola where he, where he got his penalty in qualifying. I think it was actually on the restart, because he overtook someone off Yeah, so he came back onto the track and overtook them. He got a penalty, but what I thought was funny is 2 guys actually overtook him, but never got a penalty either. But anyway, so before he went off the track, he changed some torque settings on his steering wheel because they're to match what Max was using, and instantly just fell off the track. I just don't think he's just not there yet. He just needs a little bit longer, but he's by far much more comfortable in the car or confident in the car, or confident in his ability than the previous 7 or whatever how many Red Bull drivers Max has been paired with.
Jeez, it was just
Yeah, I
Gasly
mean,
and Albon. Go ahead, Hardy.
I mean, you got to look at the benefits of having Perez. We know his tire life management is great, and when he does get finally up there, that's going to open a huge amount of strategy for Red Bull. So I do feel like he's the best choice at the moment still for him, and hopefully we'll see in the next few races he'll start getting more comfortable with the car, and start being able to have the confidence to say this isn't right on this, I need this change, and I want this, and then hopefully we'll see him get up there because he's still a great driver. So. I do think he's given Max the hardest challenge he can compared to Albon and Fiat and everyone else who was there. But they've raced with his teammates on the Red Bull and the second drivers, so I do think Perez is going to suit well into that team. But unlike Carlos Sainz and other people who switch teams, I do feel like Perez just takes a little bit longer to really get dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it last week in Portugal with Perez, right? His stint and his tyre management is still there, even in a car he hasn't quite gelled with yet. He was, for a good period of time, he was on significantly older tyres than Lewis Hamilton and only losing a small amount per lap. And then obviously his tyres just completely died, and Lewis caught him in like 3 laps. But there was a good showcase for his ability with the tyres there, and a reasonably strong result. It wasn't a disaster for him.
For sure.
He just needs to get past this boogeyman sort of thing that every other driver has had there. That he just needs to take it a bit easy in qualifying or something. Just get 4th. Just get on that second row and don't lose a position at the start. And I think until we see that happen, because we never saw it with Albon or Gasly, or maybe once or twice.
I mean,
Just does that for a few races, then we'll actually see what his pace is. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Albon did almost win a race in was it Austria?
In Austria, but again, that was because the strategy came back to him late on with safety cars, and he put some different tyres on. I think
we haven't seen Perez in that position yet, though.
Yeah, I think
exactly. Yeah,
Gasly and Albon both were victims of the pressure cooker that is the second seat next to Verstappen. And we saw Ricciardo, a phenomenal driver, was just like, do you know what, I need to move to progress because I can't perform in this team anymore. So it's no surprise that these 2 or 3 younger drivers, less experienced drivers, have struggled in that seat. And that's probably why they brought in Perez, somebody that knows that they can win a Grand Prix, who doesn't have that doubt, and instead just has to focus on getting on with the car.
Exactly. I just think if he gets away in 4th with no car, because that's what happens to them every time. These Red Bull drivers, for the last 2 or 3 years, they lose positions at the start. And he's got the best experience to negate that. So as soon as he works that out, then we'll see what his pace is. I think Bottas is very vulnerable this season, and he could do a lot of favours for Red Bull. Well, it might be a championship on it, mightn't it? On him having to beat Bottas. So yeah, we'll see.
So this is kind of coming off of Perez and his spin. Hamilton secured pole following the yellows, and obviously he did slow down, but still secured pole and was even quicker than his second lap without yellows.
He hadn't entered the area that the yellows were on, though.
Yeah, he never got into that area.
He never got into the sector where the yellow was enforced, so it wouldn't have any relevance to his lap.
I was just wondering. I mean, he definitely slowed still on his onboard.
I didn't think he did. I don't know.
But I mean, that's what Brundle and Crofty said, but they could be wrong. I was just curious what you guys felt about that, setting your quickest lap time under a yellow flag. But I guess that answers the question, unless anyone has
But half
anything
the
else.
grid did, didn't they? Apart from was it Leclerc was the only person who improved, and obviously Perez got one in at the last minute. Just talking about Perez though, apparently he came out on social media and said that he the stuff that he did in his previous Mercedes engine car to make it go fast, he can't do in the Red Bull. So he's struggling to find the key to unlocking the potential. So he's just not quite found it yet.
Yeah.
Once he finds the right settings to dial it in for, once he's happy with the balance, the diff settings, and the torque, everything, once he's got all that dialed in, he should be mighty again.
Okay.
I think the yellow flags thing, going back to that, is just a classic example of Lewis getting your hopes up that he's not going to put it on pole, and you're going to get to see a bit of a race, and then he just does, right? Like, I think it happens over and over again. You sort of
It's happened 100 times.
I hate that argument. Yeah. No, that's such a sorry, I shouldn't say that. Such a rubbish argument, because what do you mean it didn't put on a race? He was down at the beginning.
No, he did. Yeah, he absolutely did.
Spoilers.
Sort of imagine him being, having fluffed it and being further down the top 10, and you actually got to see the spectacle that is Lewis coming through traffic.
I think we've seen that more so this year than anyone.
Oh, we have, because he binned it and then somehow managed not to get a penalty reversing onto the track.
I think this year we've seen him realise how he's actually earned his championships more than any year.
100%. I rate Lewis highly as a driver. I'm not a fan of Lewis, right? But that is what it is. He still deserves every single one of those championships he has. Even with Timo Glock's assistance and all that rubbish that you see people bandy about being the fastest car. He's an absolute spectacle to watch race.
Don't get me wrong, I'm always cheering for Max to win now. I want someone else to win. Like, it's nice to see Lewis achieve, but I'm always for other drivers, Norris getting a really good position, or someone pipping Lewis is always good to watch. But I'm kind of secretly deep down quite excited when Lewis comes back from fourth and something and does it in the last 2 laps or something like that he seems to be so good at.
Yeah,
I think
the case in point is going to be Germany 2018. When he was 14th and then came back to win the race. That was a hell of a race to watch.
I'm perennially sort of.
I thought you were a millennial.
Disappointed by Lewis's luck. He's the only driver on that grid that can, put it into a barrier, lose a wing, get a puncture, and then come back to the podium, because he'll do it, and then there's a safety car or there's a red flag.
The Imola luck was incredible.
Yeah, it happens time and time. I've never seen it happen to it's obviously just luck, right? It is, and his ability to put himself in that position. But I've never seen it happen with such reliability to a driver. And it's why it's one of the reasons he's got so many championships. You have to be fast, you have to be there, and you have to be lucky.
Just a note on luck. You should look up Scott Dixon in IndyCar. He was in a 5-car crash, and he didn't have any damage on his car. He literally just drove away.
Exactly. I think in all of racing, there's whatever series, whatever your achievements, there's a healthy dose of luck there. You look at Jenson Button's championship run. It was a fantastic run, and he was lucky to be in that position.
No, the whole championship was luck. None of it was skill, Jamie.
I'm biting my tongue.
It was loads of skill. He absolutely, but it was very lucky that they managed to hold that team together to get into the season in 2009.
Yeah,
right?
and there's six drivers in that position that would have won that title with that car.
Yeah, exactly.
His points total tally over Lewis over the time that they were together, pure luck.
but that's
not.
That's not quite what I'm saying. But
it's true though.
In every success,
he makes a good point.
There is luck, right? Yeah.
I'm triggering Jamie. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. Lewis has consistently put himself in the position to be able to come back like that, and that's the differentiator, right?
Yeah, I think at
yeah.
the end of the day, we just all want to challenge to see that title fight again.
We
yeah,
can
and we'll
you
be
know,
really
when it-
excited next season, and
when it-
then it'll settle in.
we can
Yeah,
I
well,
will
unfortunately, it's the fault of Bottas. Like it's we really didn't complain about Mercedes dominance that much when it was Rosberg versus Hamilton because we got at least a title fight. So you know,
It was great to see. Yeah.
It's Lewis is he is the best of all time, I would say, and statistically is. So you know he's gonna, and he's done that through all the things you said. But you just want to see him have to work for it, which he is now. So
I will
And
say,
it's really good to
as the biggest Lewis Hamilton fanboy, surely here by a mile, I do still want to see him win, but I do obviously agree. I prefer seeing him fight for the win rather than he just walks away with it, because then it is just boring. You know, at the end of the day, it's if he just drives away and within 5 laps he's 10 seconds away, then he's 15, then he's 20, and no one's catching him. You don't want to see it. To see in the battle between him and Max is great to see. But yeah, I agree completely. When it was Hamilton versus Rosberg, there wasn't as many complaints because you had someone always fighting. So I think it's good to see Max up there, but just some laps that Hamilton can pull out is fantastic in qualifying. You know, getting that 100 pole positions is a huge achievement. So, you know, I mean, I do want to see him get his 8th title, but I do want to see this battle go the entire season.
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So just super quick, because we're almost an hour in, we haven't gotten to the race yet. I thought we were gonna get there. So just Leclerc P4, your thoughts in like one sentence. Go. Whoever wants to go first. Let's start with Jay.
As to what? Sorry, Leclerc.
Leclerc P4, Ferrari pace in general.
Pretty good. I mean, I'm going off what other people said in qualifying there, because I was in an endurance race. But if it was because he got slightly lucky with being able to do the second lap when others didn't, then that accounts for some of it. But yeah, I mean, he's been mega this season. Now that he's got a car that's drivable again. So yeah, good job.
All right, Dan, Leclerc, Ferrari.
It's where you want to see it, right? I think the Ferrari as a team sort of belongs that end of the grid, and it's good to see them back there. And yeah, his performance was brilliant. And I mean, yeah, he's come back to it. There is a little dose of luck there, but he's the right driver in the right car, and he did the job.
Hardy.
Yeah, it was great to see Charles doing a great job, especially with the pressure of Carlos coming into the team. And there's been a lot more hype, I'd say, recently with Carlos than there was Charles. So he's just trying to make himself aware of the community again. Of say, look, I'm still here. I'm still doing a fantastic job. I've got this long contract with Ferrari, and I'm going to bring these results and drives out the bag when I need it. So it's good for the sport to see another driver up there.
And finally, RaGe.
I think it's good that I think more so than Charles, I think this is bringing out something really good in Carlos. Out of every single person who's moved teams, I think Carlos has adapted the best. Like, he's absolutely driving out of his skin, and it is also improving Charles's game. I think it was just a really good lucky lap.
Absolutely. I'm very happy for Sainz as a Sainz fan. And then finally, just a little bit on McLaren here. Ricciardo is way up there in P6, and from his past couple performances, it's nice to see him in Q3 and doing pretty well. And or is he P7? He's P7. And then Lando, he kind of finished much lower than he did in previous attempts, and I was almost wondering if he had old tires. So again, just a few comments. Let's start with Jay.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. I think he was never not going to get used to the car, and he was never not going to be a challenge to Lando. It's one of the most intriguing driver pairings on the grid. He's just starting to get used to it. It's exactly the same as you talked about with Perez and Sainz and all the new drivers. They've got to get used to everything again in completely different cars. So he's definitely getting the hang of it now. It's going to be a great battle going forward, and it can only be a good thing for McLaren, really, in that fight. All three of those teams, well, it's basically two now, isn't it? Ferrari and McLaren. They're going to need both their drivers. So it's great to see him get back into it, and hopefully it continues.
Dan?
I'm really hopeful that we're seeing the sort of beginning of a classic driver pairing at McLaren. It's shaping up to be that way. I think, Lando put his mark on it in the first few races here, and this is Danny's fight back, and hopefully it's going to be a narrative that inevitably Netflix will blow out of all proportions into this epic rivalry.
Of course.
But I think it's just good to see. I'm a big McLaren fan. I sort of always have been. They're the local team to me, so it's good to see them performing, and it's even better to see Danny do it as well.
Hardy?
Yeah, it was great. It's great to see because like before Danny joined the team and you were seeing the banter they had between each other, and everyone's like, "Oh, imagine them in a team together," and then they finally announced it. It's like, "Oh, well, is it going to be quite funny as a pairing, or is it all for the humor like they had with Carlos and Lando, or is it really serious?" And the team actually gel really well together, and Lando getting the podium, forcing Danny Rick to go, "Okay, I just need to get my head down here and focus on it," getting the P16 and quali. Important, I think it was, and then being told, from Seidel and Zach, listen, you're a great driver, you've won many races, you can still do this. I think if that mind game and him finally starting to understand the car is really going to be a good point for McLaren now for the developments, because as the driver pairing, they are pushing each other so well. It's so good to see.
And RaGe. All right. I guess he's not listening.
I'm sorry, I'm still here. I was muted. I keep myself muted because I don't want Typegate again. Exactly. I think Norris. I've got a sneaking suspicion that McLaren told Norris to punch a hole in whatever happened. I don't think that was Norris's decision to stay out at the beginning. I don't know if anyone's already said that, because he seemed to go out right at the very start. Whether it was his decision to do it and it was just a wrong decision, or it was a team decision to go out and learn or something, I don't know. But it did seem a bit weird that they're always the first out of the gate when they probably shouldn't be the car leading out. But yeah, I think that was the only thing that let Norris down. As for Dan, again, on social media, he said that he'd finally unlocked the bit that he's missing with the McLaren, hence the better performance. So yeah, good. I can't wait to see what happens when they get slightly better cars next year, hopefully.
Okay, I think that wraps up qualifying pretty well. It's only an hour and 2 minutes, so I think we're ahead of schedule. Let's go ahead and get on to the race. And obviously the big talking point for the race was who is going to get the better start, Max Verstappen on soft tires on the dirty side of the track, or Hamilton on older soft tires on the clean side. And of course, Max has been having fantastic starts all season, and he managed to get up the inside, get his elbows out. Hamilton had to back out, otherwise it would have been a massive crash at the start. So that would have been interesting to see. It would have been very interesting to see who would have won that race, because I don't know if I would have said Bottas wins. So, any thoughts on the start? And of course, Leclerc passed Bottas as well.
I will say that it was picked up on Sky, at least, that Hamilton and Bono were talking about Max's grid slot having what looked like more rubber than P1. So I think that was only a little bit of just the worry was there that he was going to get that good start. And then, I mean, it was surprising to see, but generally you do see these Max and that Red Bull gets a better start than Lewis at the moment. So, I mean, it could be a system thing. It could just be the driver itself, themselves. But it was interesting to see from that how Lewis was able to still stay with Max and not, because sometimes you see a move like that and they have to back out of it and you lose a couple of places and you can't really catch the car ahead and you lose focus and rhythm. And it was interesting to see how well he could just say, okay, calm down, get back in this, and then push.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that maturity from Lewis, isn't it? There's a lot of drivers that, in that situation that Max has put him in twice now at Imola and there, he's got the wits about him and the experience to just back out of it and carry on with his race rather than causing an accident. So yeah, I think it's smart thinking from him, but you definitely see the purpose with Max into that turn.
It is another reason why Bottas deserves that seat as well. I think it can't be underrepresented how important it was to Lewis's race that they had that second Mercedes in P3.
Well, not from the start though. Leclerc obviously
Not from
passed
the
him.
start, but throughout the whole race and the fight back that Hardy was talking there for Lewis. I think that was if it was the other way around and there were two Red Bulls there, I think that fight back would have been a lot harder for Lewis. So he has the luxury to be able to take that step back and come back at the problem after a few laps cooling down. That I think Max definitely didn't have. He didn't have that support.
No, absolutely. And when you know it's your own car that you're going to be dropping back behind, you know you're likely going to be allowed to let them pass. Although, as we probably will get to discussion with, he didn't so much do that this time. But Red Bull didn't have that option, right? If they drop behind, it is someone else's car, and also they lose the lead. Lewis was second, so would drop to third, but knew that it was their own car to get back past. If that was Perez in third, then they wouldn't have stopped potentially, would they? So, yeah, you're right. It's crucial for that fight, and that's why Red Bull need Perez up there. I think Max stand a chance.
Yeah. So if no one else has thoughts on the start, then the next big thing that happened was obviously Tsunoda's getting his engine killed and bringing out the safety car on lap 5? So it's pretty disappointing to see. Obviously, we were hoping for a fight back from him, but yeah, ended early. Any thoughts on that before we move on to the rest of the race?
It'd have been interesting to have known what would have happened in that race if Max had just had the extra few laps to push. I think the pace in the Mercedes would have got him anyway. But it's an interesting thought. It was a bit of a rookie error in a way from Yuki as well to continue turning in when he could have just not and delivered the car to a Marshall post quite easily. But I think that's something that's very easy to see outside of the car and very difficult to see in the car.
Absolutely. I think he wanted to get that car going again like Perez did in Bahrain.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you don't know what kind of problem you've got, have you? So rather than fill the car with gravel, you keep it on the tarmac and see if you can get it going again. But yeah, obviously did cause a safety car, but didn't matter so much in the end, really.
It was nice not to hear him swear for once, though. Considering that
Are you
I
sure?
was really expecting to cut him, you know. No, like, you know, it's funny and all that, but you know, when you've heard some of like his comments, it's funny going into it where he was questioning the team about whether they had the same equipment and had to apologise for it. So it is just the rookiness coming out of him. So I'm pretty sure they're getting the same equipment anyways. Before the conspiracy theories come out, saying no, they're not. It's favoritism and Gasly. But it was good to see that maturity of him go, okay, car's gone, it's stopped. I'll pull over. So the procedure, fine. So it was nice to see he is starting to get that mature way of thinking.
Apart from the fact when they had to tell him to stay in the car because it was rolling back down the road.
Yeah, apart from that mistake.
Well, did they tell him to stay in the car? Because I mean, it looked like he was already unplugged from everything. So
Yeah, well, there was in the radio they were shouting at him, saying, "Yuki, stay in the car! Yuki, stay in the car!"
interesting. So yeah, now we're gonna kind of just move on to the rest of the race, because from there it was pretty much a Hamilton and Verstappen show, and there's like, I mean, it was hard to tell who was gonna win. It seemed like Verstappen had it under control, so we're gonna kind of split this up into kind of phases a little bit. So obviously the first section before the first pit stop, Verstappen was controlling the pace and Hamilton was keeping a close gap. It wasn't like he was scampering away from Hamilton like Hamilton seems to do to every driver. But Verstappen surprised everybody by pulling the gun first and pulling into the pits and undercutting Hamilton. So, any thoughts on that section of the race?
No, I think with how close Hamilton was able to stay, I think they did the right thing. They couldn't risk the undercut because the pace Lewis had was clearly he would jump them if he'd undercut them. So they did the right thing. Obviously, with what happened afterwards, I think I don't know what everyone else thought, but you obviously thought that Mercedes had missed a trick by obviously with the slow pit stop, not boxing Lewis the very next lap. I'm quite surprised they didn't. Obviously didn't matter in the end, but no, I think it's the right thing to do, because it was, around that track where, they say you need a good second or so of pace to stay that close. Lewis was all over the back of him, sort of. So no, it's the right strategy decision for them.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on to?
I thought when Max pitted in and they had the slow stop, I thought when Mercedes missed the boat, I was one of those kind of people, to be like, "What are you doing? Come on, you need to pit him in now. You need to get in now. Come on." Not realizing, how it's going to play out in the end. Of course, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I was, at the time, very critical of that. I was like, "Well, why aren't they pitting him? They need to." But then seeing, I think once Red Bull realized, okay, they are going to be better on the medium channels, but not knowing exactly how much better they're going to be on grip or speed. It was the hard balance of, well, do you take the track position or do you take the fresh tires? It was, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But it was interesting to see that when Hamilton said, "Okay, stay out," and he was like, "Yep, okay, fine, we'll stay out, we'll do it," and it was okay to carry on.
And then of course he did stay out, and like I honestly thought that it was a ploy to do a one stop is what I thought Mercedes were doing, and I thought Red Bull was committing to a two stop, pitting that early, which of course was the opposite. But I did, one interesting thing that I found was Toto's message to race control. Did you guys hear that about Mazepin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we had access to that feed, but that was cool to hear. This
It's
guy's
just
gonna
new
this
for
guy is
Barcelona.
going
First one,
to,
wasn't it?
yeah, this guy's gonna lose us the position, Michael. So Mazepin's on everybody's terrible list, it seems.
Has been added to the bingo list of people that
Yeah.
have moaned about him. Yeah, no, it's great to see. It's great. The more sort of insight you get into that. It's one thing.
Netflix is
Formula
gonna
One
love it.
does- Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm sure if they get access throughout the season, there'll be plenty more we see. Yeah, but it's the one thing Formula One does very well compared to other sports. You wouldn't dream of hearing, like, even radio messages between, hearing commands between a football manager and his players. You wouldn't hear over a radio, would you, during a football match? So to get that level of access is a big plus for the sport, and to add an even a bigger layer of hearing what the team bosses are saying during the race to race control as well. Yeah, it's a nice step. Hopefully we see more of it.
On a side note, did you guys know that in IndyCar and NASCAR they have driver interviews during the race with the commentators?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah.
They have it in Formula E as well.
Oh, really?
Not during the race, but afterwards.
Could you imagine that with Lewis Hamilton? He's trying to push, and they're like, "So, Lewis, how's the race going for you?"
Not
My
like
tires are gone. My tires, they're all gone.
They're gone, Bono.
Lewis,
And
do
they
you
actually
got
got
me? This is Brundle. Are the tires actually gone, Lewis? I'm just curious.
Fastest lap.
Again, that meme is like is going against like the whole anti-Hamilton march, because the whole idea of saying my tires are gone and then posting the fastest lap, right? Then with the tire regs as they are at the moment, if your tires are gone, you're going to put the fastest lap because you're absolutely going to burn them up before you come in, right? So if you say my tires are gone and then you come in the next lap but do the fastest lap, that's right. Everyone does that.
Correct, but he doesn't normally come in straight afterwards. It's normally my tyres are gone and then stays out for another 10.
25 laps
Yeah.
later, he's still posted.
25 fastest laps
my
in a
tyre's
row.
gone and he does one less stop than everybody else.
Yeah. But I mean, so going back to the strategy fight, I've just actually seen this quote from Max Verstappen on Facebook from that he said to Ziggo Sport. He said, "In the end, I'm always alone in the fight, so they can easily just make another stop because there's a gap behind them." And that was echoed by another quote by Christian Horner saying, "We desperately need him to be in that gap, so Mercedes don't have the strategic options they had."
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, bringing up that, so he pits for 4 laps fresher tires, but to the first time, and then he catches up to Verstappen eventually. Obviously, there was a little bit of a gap there, but he closed the gap up, and of course everyone was thinking like this is going to be a fight to the end with similar tires and everything. But as soon as he got up to Verstappen, he just pits again, and of course everyone immediately flashed back to Hungary, and in fact the Verstappen's race engineer said this could be a Hungary as soon as that happened, and I don't know why they didn't immediately pit him like that.
They would have lost anyway.
Yeah,
I think that was the thing.
yeah.
But-
If they'd pitted straight away, then he would have been behind, and they'd be on similar pace tyres, and it would have been end of the game. What I didn't quite understand is why, when it was very, very clear he was going to catch him and therefore pass him because of the pace difference, when it got to about 9 or 10 seconds with about 9 or 10 laps, just whack a set of soft tyres on Max's car earlier than they did and see what happens.
Yeah, that's what I thought their plan was.
That's where the sort of the lack of inventiveness from Red Bull. You know, they were essentially relying on Max making his car as wide as the track, which was not going to happen with the pace difference. So
You can't do that at Spain either because of turn 1.
Exactly. So they just should have tried something different once it was clear.
Yeah.
You know, with a 10-second gap, he was taking 3.5, 4 seconds a lap out of him in the last 5 laps.
Exactly. And about
Do
the
it
only
a little bit earlier and give yourself a chance at least.
about the only person that was rooting for Red Bull was Bottas, it seemed, which we can talk about right now. He was given a radio message, please don't hold him up, and then immediately proceeded to hold him up for like 4 or 5 corners.
You can't
Never
Bottas.
had to
Like, well done.
Yeah.
Well,
Why
done.
should- why should he, really?
Finally
Yeah.
stood up and actually took charge of his career. Like,
Yeah, that's what we need to see more of from Bottas. I think it's you see it from all the guys that win world championships at the end, don't you? You saw it from Lewis in the fights multiple times with Lewis and Rosberg, where it was like Lewis, he's faster, and his response every time was, well, tell him to overtake then.
He can get
Yeah.
closer, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's it. You need that attitude to beat someone like Lewis Hamilton. You can't do it and be the perfect team player. You have to be willing to risk it to beat Lewis and have a chance of beating Lewis. So yeah, good on him.
I think Bottas generally had the pace to actually take it to Lewis today if he didn't get stuck behind Leclerc at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
What
Yeah.
would have happened if Hamilton didn't win this race? Do you think there would have been a conversation? I mean, there probably
Of course
is
it would have been.
a
It would have
conversation.
been huge if that was the impacting factor.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
there would have been,
It
and there will have been.
yeah.
I
It-
think, but
It seemed like AWS and everyone was thinking that it was going to be a last lap pass, and then suddenly Bottas holds him up, and there's just a glimmer of hope that it was like Verstappen's going to get away with this one now. Of course, that didn't happen because Hamilton caught up really quickly and passed him almost as soon as he caught him because there's just such a tire difference. And there was a funny radio message between him and Bono where he was like, I'm not going to have any tires left whenever I reach Verstappen. And Bono was like, he's going to have even less, Lewis. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's true.
here's a funny thing about that pit strategy. Karun Chandok tweeted, wonder if Mercedes are going to do a second stop like they did in Budapest a few years ago. Like he called it and got it spot on.
It worked.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, which was it's great. It's great to see. I mean, maybe he gave them the idea. Maybe it popped up. They were like, "Ooh,
I think he did say afterwards, you can thank me later or hire me later.
yeah."
So, yeah. It's it's worth a go, and like, yeah.
Yep.
It's, you make the best point of all. I think Dan in that is without another driver there, then it's just so easy for them to do it without any compromise. And that's always going to be the problem Max is in currently. So
Absolutely.
we'll see.
And then, of course, Verstappen pits right after he gets passed, but he does manage to get the fastest lap, and that could be worth something at the end of the day. We'll see whenever it comes down to the wire, or if it comes down to the wire. And then, I guess finally, is that Did you guys see the late scrap for P10 there between
Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah, that was Gasly. Was it Alonso too?
It was Alonso that caused it essentially by trying to stay out. So it was Russell and Alonso tried to stay out and not stop, and everyone else had stopped. And then they caused a bit of a roadblock. But yeah, some classic Alonso elbows. And then I think there was also some stuff with Ocon and
Gasly.
Gasly on the very last lap, wasn't there? That I don't think we really got to see. But
No, yeah, it was shown on replays and stuff. But yeah, he was so close to getting P9 for AlphaTauri.
yeah, but you know that's the midfield has just been brilliant all season. It was all of last year, and you know
It seems like it's
luckily we've got the full picture now. We've got the fight up front and the same ultra competitive midfield. So
Yeah.
it's good to see.
And even at the back of the field, I think the slower cars are closer to each other than they were last season, because I mean it was pretty much dead cert that the Williams was by far the slowest last year, and now they've got certainly the Haas to race, and on some tracks the Alfa Romeo as well.
Yeah, they won that pace definitely quicker than at least 3 teams now, and yeah, race quicker than 1 or 2.
Yeah, so end to end we've got much more competition.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely like 3 classes. There's like Haas and Williams, and then there's the Alfa Romeo seems like it's kind of in between, but then there's like the Aston Martin, the Alpine, AlphaTauri are kind of together, and then there's McLaren and Ferrari that are pretty close, and then obviously Red Bull and Mercedes that are close.
Yeah, can we just? I know we talked about it, but let's just have a shout out for the McLaren Ferrari fight this year, because
Yeah,
it's great. It's great to see them both recovering the way they're doing, and with those 4 drivers as well, that could be some. Well, it's already been some epic races, and like the Lando versus Sainz was quite spicy as well in this race. Did you see the move?
Did Lando
Sainz-
get a warning for the late move?
That's
Yeah,
the one I'm talking about, but I don't know if he did.
Well, I saw a black
He
and
got a
white
black
flag
and white
come up,
flag, yeah.
but I wasn't in because I was on Peasant View. I didn't get a full representation of what that was about.
Yeah, even on Sky, they said we think that's for them. Lando's move.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so Sainz trying to get past him, and he obviously made that little move into turn 1 to try and block. But you know, it's that kind of dynamic again that it's great to see between those 2 cars.
I think they just got out-tired, didn't they, this weekend? McLaren's.
Yeah, I think so. You know, that Ferrari is very quick. And I think it was the quicker car this weekend. So yeah, McLaren were trying a few different things with the strategy to try and hold on. But yeah, that's going to go all season long. It's great to see. And you know, it only takes, as we've seen already, there's a lot of podiums up for those 2 teams this year. It will just take one incident with those top guys to put them in that position. So
definitely. With the way that Hamilton and Verstappen are racing, it's bound to happen at some point.
I'm waiting for that to go off. It's inevitable. That there's
So-
going to be a big accident between those, or there'll be something that just turns this from a heated title battle into an absolute like war between them.
I think that's my prediction for the Monaco race weekend. Is you know, my 2 predictions are, you know, an incident between Lewis and Max. It's so tight that overtake is difficult. Max is bound to like give it a go, and it's not going to work, I think. And the other one is, you know, what story is Mazepin going to land in when he inevitably pastes it into a wall there?
I think we'll see the return of the car in the harbour.
Yeah, it's either that or I'm putting money on, you know, a 4th, 5th floor balcony.
Oh, yeah, there might be a meme coming up later. So anyways, just to finish up the race real quick, obviously the podium was Hamilton winning, Verstappen coming in 2nd, and Bottas coming in 3rd, which I think there was a stat that this is the most, like out of
Yes.
this is the most common podium grouping in history of F1.
It was last race, so
Yeah.
it's now extended it. Yeah.
I think it's stats like that that absolutely put to bed the any rumours of Bottas being out of that seat in the Mercedes.
I don't know how you can let George Russell sit. That's the thing.
His contract's up next year. I can't
Yeah.
see them not putting him in it, but I think there's still a chance that Hamilton's not going to be there next year. In which case, the decision's made up for them. But
Apparently, the news has already come out that Hamilton's pushing for his contract for summer.
he is, yeah.
So
Doesn't mean he'll get it.
speaking of news, any last thoughts on the race before we move on to the news section?
I think it was a showcase for why they shouldn't do preseason testing at Barcelona, because for the first time in a while, it was an interesting race at Barcelona. It wasn't a classic race. It's not going to be one you look back at 2021 and be like, the best race was Barcelona, but it was.
There's already 2 races better than it.
Yeah, it was the best race we've had at Barcelona for the best part of a decade. Since I think the best race I've seen at Barcelona was Maldonado
2012.
taking the win in 2012. Yeah, and then this one. So yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any
decent
fire?
race, and
No.
I don't think there
Thankfully
was,
not,
I'm
no.
afraid.
There was some fire at
So-
Darlington, but that was NASCAR. Anyways,
Ah.
It was,
speaking.
the last thing I will say,
Oh.
it was nice to see the race wasn't as boring as a lot of people thought it was going to be. Because a lot of people thought, oh, nothing's going to really happen at all, but there was at least some action this time in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in time to completely change all the regulations again. I mean, it's carrying on, isn't it? Like last year was the best season I've seen in a long time, and it's been just as exciting so far. So, as everyone said, if it was it was bearable to watch it round Barcelona, then we're going to be in some other good races this year.
Okay, so moving on to news. There wasn't a whole lot of news out of that I noticed, at least. I wasn't necessarily looking for news, but the thing that caught my eye the most was an article stating that Formula One is pushing for American drivers in F1 in the next 2 to 3 years. And so I just wanted to take a moment and highlight some American talent coming through and just get your thoughts on them if you know who they are. And I think the most...
That's a no.
As I say, do you want to... this could be very quick round.
So I think the person that everyone is kind of thinks is, like the next in line to be an American F1, the one that's on the ladder and almost won the championship last year in Formula 3.
Is it Jake Dennis?
He's not American.
Ah,
Logan Sargent. So he was a championship contention last season. He came in third, and he was trying to get into F2, but just didn't have the sponsorship backing to get there. And maybe something like this initiative will help him get there. But has anyone seen any races F3 in the last 2 years, 3 years?
I mean, I'd watched it last year, like 2019 and a little bit last year, and it's interesting to see them come through. But I mean, the F2 battle was fun, but I don't really watch a lot of F3. But the way they've done their calendar seems a little bit strange.
Okay,
I was going to say the main there's quite a good conversation to be had in American talent coming through, because I think the main barrier, which hopefully is open now because of Liberty Media, is because by and large, not many Americans watch Formula One in comparison to like NASCAR and IndyCar. There's just not the sponsorship to get them past anything that the lower single seaters, a single person pursuing their own career could get them into. So like there isn't the Carlos Slims, there isn't the Lawrence Strolls, there isn't the big people giving the young talent the money to get into F1. There's no Nikita Mazepin's dads getting them in there. There isn't anyone there in F1, or many people in F1 or in America, willing to fund a young American's journey into F1 anymore. It doesn't happen.
Even Gene Haas didn't try, right?
I was going to say, right, like if anyone was going to do it, it was going to be the American team, the American owner. I mean, my point of this is, yes, you're right. There has to be the money element, but they have to be good enough. Right. If there was an American driver that had come through that was good enough to do it, they would have been in by now.
Oh,
It's-
that's not true
Okay.
though. Look at
So-
Rossi. Look at
Rossi had his chance. He
Here,
wasn't good enough.
I'm going to run through the American talent, and then
I think
I'm going to
there's
run.
only one
There's only one.
that is going to make it, and he's going to be in your list.
Okay, so
It's inevitably.
I'm going to run down the list here and just highlight them and kind of what they're known for. What
just say Mario Andretti and we can end it around.
So Logan Sargent is first one that I
I mean, I love his
picked.
name. No idea who he is.
The next one is Juan Manuel Correa. He was in F2 before obviously the horror crash at Spa in 2019, and he most recently made his debut in F3 this past weekend, scoring points. So he is on the road to recovery, and obviously he's already scored some points and hoping for good things there.
Is that his debut or returning to?
Returning. He's well, I mean,
Yeah.
he is a rookie in Formula 3. He skipped over it last time.
Oh, sorry, got you. Go on, Hardy.
Well, hang on. I'm going through the list, and then we're going to come back through, and you guys can talk about whichever ones you want to talk about. So just listen to the list. I'll describe them, and then you give your picks, and then I'll go back to their picture or whatever, and you can talk about them. So just listen to the picks, and then you make your pick. So the next one is Jack.
Sorry, sir. We'll be quiet.
I just because there's a lot of names here, and it's too much for all of us to give our opinions on every single one. So the next one is Jack Crawford. He's the current Red Bull Academy driver. He's only 16 right now. He's in F3. He's one of the youngest drivers on the grid. And he's just kind of working up his way through the junior series. So still really young. I don't think he qualifies for F2 next season with his age, but I'm not 100% sure. The next one is another driver in F3 is Kalen Frederic. He's a reigning British Formula 3 champion. I honestly don't know anything about him. I had to look him up. I didn't even know he was in F3, and I watched all 3 races. But next we have 3 IndyCar drivers. The most popular one that comes up is Colton Herta. He's the youngest IndyCar race winner. A lot of people tout him as the next Formula 1 American driver, just because of his age and his raw talent that he has. Next up is Joseph Newgarden. He is a multiple-time series champion. He is in his late 20s, I believe. So he's not necessarily... He doesn't have the age on his side, but he definitely has the experience, and he definitely has shown that he has that championship mentality. And then the last Formula 1 driver, American Formula 1 driver, is Alexander Rossi. He's, of course, a race winner in IndyCar. He's won the Indy 500. He's another one that has massive talent. And obviously proven that he can get to Formula 1 before. But again, he's in his late 20s, so he's kind of aging out of that sweet spot for getting into Formula 1. And then finally is, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, because it is not an American name, but he is American nationally. It is Ugo Ukachukwu. And he's a McLaren Junior. He's a 13-year-old Carter that they recently signed. So we'll go ahead, and if anyone has a name picked out that they're who they think is going to be the next one to be the Formula 1 driver.
I mean, you missed one.
I missed one?
Yeah, Pietro Fittipaldi.
He's not American.
He is American, isn't he? He's
South
American,
American.
right?
He's Brazilian.
Yeah.
He's Brazilian. Is he Brazilian flagged? I thought he raced under the American flag.
No, Brazilian.
That's a shame. Okay, because I know he's big in NASCAR. He's had a great career, so I was under the
IndyCar.
impression he raced there.
But
Yeah, IndyCar. They're all the same. Go in circles. Like it's I thought he was racing under an American flag.
No. And he already made it to F1, so that wouldn't have been.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. That's why I thought you missed him.
No, he is unfortunately a Brazilian driver. I don't know. So
I mean, this whole section could be very quick, Fox. None of them.
You don't think any of them are going to make it? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I
Jay?
think that traditionally Americans have struggled in getting into Formula One because it's a European-centric series. I can't remember who said it. It was one of the old. There's a documentary. It was in a while ago. You know, American drivers struggle here. They're looked down on in European racing, and they always seem to struggle to get a foothold single seaters as a result of that. And I think Liberty are going to help with that. But until we see American races at the forefront of the series, I can't really see it being anything more than an uphill struggle for any of them.
Okay, so 2 for no one's going to get to F1 from America. Jay, do you have any thoughts of the next American F1 driver?
I genuinely think the one with the most chance on that list is probably the 13-year-old Carter that's been signed for McLaren. I think Carrera had a fair good chance, obviously, before what happened. I agree with what everyone said. They all look down upon. It's difficult for them having to. It's something that has to be a culture change and will take time for Liberty Media to change. So I think it's going to be none of them. It will be a few years off yet. It will be a young kid will come through once the situation's right. Once America's a bit more on board with it. Once there's a few more races there. So yeah, none of them currently.
It's got to be a team that has something to gain from having an American in the car. So it's not going to be Ferrari. In all likelihood, it's not going to be Red Bull, Mercedes. They're all marketing. They're not pointing at their marketing at America. So until you have that team that is trying to market predominantly to American sponsors, you're not going to see an American driver.
No, but likewise, this is what I mean slightly about. None of them have been good enough yet. Yes, there are drivers that have been quick enough, or the quickest in F2 that haven't got in. But I think if an young American came through the junior categories over here and lit it up because they were good enough, they would find the sponsors. So I think it will happen, but only when someone's good enough to do it. And none of them have come through and just lit up the junior formulas as you need to.
Hardy?
Yeah, it's got to be both. Yeah.
Any thoughts, Hardy?
Oh, yeah, I agree completely. Like it's got to be. Like, for example, if Haas were going to stay as Haas, if they're going to get the performance up there and they didn't have to worry about the money side of it, then bringing an American driver to an American team makes the most sense. So the rest of the grid, because they're not really huge with the American investments, and yeah, I don't really see it. The only way the American driver is going to come through is if they have that talent. And I'm not saying none of them are talented. That's not what I'm saying at all. But when you've got the competition that you've got, they've got the whole field of Europe to pick. They've got the feeder series. They've got all these different series and everything that like Mercedes going racing, all the other teams racing. Then they've got their drivers they follow and they know that they want to put in. So even though there is going to be Miami and COTA to racing, which is great to see more American races, I just feel like unless there is that desire by the teams to really try and get a hold of American market share, that it'd be hard to see a proper American driver come through. American reserve driver seems more likely, but not a starting 1-2.
Yeah, you've got to have both to get into F1. You've got to be fast, and some have been fast, and you've got to have the backing. And to date, they've not managed to have both. And if it was going to happen, it would have happened for Haas. So.
Okay, not what I was expecting. None of you chose any of them. So I'll just give my opinion. I think if you had to choose someone from this list today to put in the car for the Monaco, I would say the person most ready for that responsibility would probably be Joseph Newgarden. I feel like he has the most talent ready to go now. I don't think he would, if you put him in a Mercedes, I don't think he would win the race. I don't even know if he'd finish on the podium, but I think he would eventually, get on the. He has the ability to get on the pace. I don't think he has the ability to be a world champion in a car. But as far as
I think he would have been in IndyCar far too long. At this
I just still don't think he would even get onto pace within a year.
I mean, he was in the feeder series in Europe before he came over here, and he was beating current F1 drivers sometimes. So I mean, it's not like he's not got the talent. It's just, I mean, I think he's a little too old to make that transition and make it well. But
If you were going to put a American driver in for Monaco, for example, I think the one you'd go with would be Rossi because he's had the F1 experience, and now that he's gone done another series and is
but
getting more
I
and more
just don't think
experience.
that it really matters at this point, his F1 experience.
Yeah, it just has no relevance because it's a completely different engine.
So
Yeah, but at least he's had experience with those kind of cars. If you get
I
what
mean,
mean, it's almost
IndyCar is essentially a Formula One car. It's not
No, it's
miles
not.
different.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot different.
like very
I mean, anyways,
I mean, it's basically a spec series.
Yeah.
To a massively greater degree than Formula One.
Joseph
I'm not-
Newgarden came over, won the Formula Ford, went into GP3 and finished 18th with 1 pole, no podiums, no fastest laps. It's not good enough.
I think
But-
it would have to be, you know, you're looking at Carrera, Award,
Award
the
is not
American
American.
drivers. Patricio
Patricio is Mexican.
He's Mexican. Yeah.
is down as American on the Wikipedia article
I
I'm
think
currently reading.
he does have an American super license, but I feel like if he makes
Well,
it to-
that's fair. He's getting a test, isn't he, at the end of the year?
he does.
no.
He is getting a test, yes.
Yeah, it says his license is American, so
But he is not an American.
Yeah.
I mean, if he
Depends
wants,
what he races under.
I imagine if he gets to Formula One, that he would choose to race under the Mexican
Yeah.
flag.
he did race in F2 under
in
an
F2.
American flag.
Yes, and he
looking at
raced
this.
in Super
um,
Formula as well, because that's just where he got his
yeah.
super license approved.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, you know, but if you're putting somebody in the car for next race, it's going to be one of them. It's not going to be someone who's new to Formula One, who's new to Monaco. It's going to be someone who's raced in European single seaters and at Monaco. So
And Award never did that, but
yeah, I mean, Award didn't. Carrera has. Incident aside, I can't see you just picking someone who is essentially a talented but random driver from the States and chucking them in the car at this point.
okay.
I think the days have passed of seeing that.
Last one must have been Lotterer, wasn't that?
So
Yeah.
That didn't
yeah.
really go well.
So
No,
my
and Lotterer is a phenomenally talented driver. You know, Mr. Lamar. So you know, and he was in a donkey of a car. But
My-
Oh yeah, don't get it wrong.
My-
It was.
my second point, which is what I was going to say before, because obviously I don't think that Joseph Newgarden is going to get into an F1, but I think the next American F1 driver is most likely going to be Jack Crawford. I think he is in that perfect age range to where a couple Red Bull juniors are going to get kicked off of the ladder in F2, and I think he's going to be around at the perfect time to get promoted. Whenever they either move on from Pierre Gasly, they move on from Tsunoda, or maybe even Perez retires and one of them gets kicked up to the main team. So I think he's going to be in that perfect age range to where he gets promoted in the next 2 to 3 years.
he's from Charlotte, isn't he? Is the birth isn't that heavily linked with NASCAR or IndyCar?
Charlotte is NASCAR.
NASCAR, yeah. I mean, I'd love to. It'd be great. It would be great, but so many of these drivers nearly make it. And
He's got the right background.
He does, but he's in the Red Bull Junior team, and I think that's probably the sort of thing that feels enticing when you're signing the contract, but more people get spat out of that than make it anywhere close to the Formula One teams. And I think that might count against a driver who ultimately might deserve it.
If there is ever a market that Red Bull is trying to get into, I feel like it would be America. I feel like
I've got like a kind of counter kind of argument to it. I don't think that drivers in the US actually want to race in Formula One, because the
I wouldn't say that at all.
But the opportunities in America, which is so much closer to home, are just as fortuitous as they are in F1.
I
Like
think
you've got NASCAR, you've got IndyCar, you've got hundreds of dirt series. You know, especially IndyCar and NASCAR. Like there's there's millions of pounds to be made in those races. Why would you want to go over to F1 and make the same amount of money and be away from your family and friends?
if you are in the European feeder series, you are going for F1, 100%. there's so many feeder series here that are attached to IndyCar, that are attached to NASCAR. So if you're making your way over to F3, you're planning on getting to F1. That's where you're going.
It's just the numbers are against him a little bit. There's so many drivers go through F3 and F2, and they're phenomenally quick in those cars, and they don't even get a sniff at a test in a Formula One car, let alone an actual race seat.
But if your boss tells you, "Hey, we want an American in this team," that's an incentive. I'm sure that they're going to incentivize this, so I wouldn't be shocked if that incentive gets in it, because all that Liberty Media want right now is that American market share. They're losing out to NASCAR, they're losing out to IndyCar in America, and they're getting that second race here. And it would not shock me if we see 3 or 4 races in America within the next 10 years.
I hope not, if they follow the trend of the circuits that have been mooted for new American races. COTA's a good track, don't get me wrong, but I don't hold much hope for Miami. The Las Vegas car park wasn't a great race. The proposed New York, New Jersey track didn't look promising. Like
the thing is, it is an American owners, but it's a world championship. Two races is the maximum for any country. You should never be getting more than that, because that's not what it's about. We go all over the world to all these different countries. That's the point. So you start getting to almost 10% of the races being held in one country. It's just it's not what the series is about, and I don't think they'll allow it to get to that.
I think we will see an American driver sooner or later. Just with the path into Formula One, as competitive as it is, I don't think you could pick anyone who's currently racing and say with any degree of hope, let alone certainty, that it'll be them.
So I'm going to leave this section off with one last question. You can all answer this. What is going to happen first? A female driver in F1 or an American driver in F1? Let's start with Jay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's start with Dan.
It's yeah, go on, I mean.
You just have to just one or the other. I mean, you can't.
It could be either. It really could be at this point. I think the chances are so low either way, for no good reason either. It's not like that there's any particular reason why they couldn't. I just time will tell. I think unfortunately I feel that a female driver has bigger mountains to climb than an American driver, politically and socially. So
you're on the side of American driver being before another female driver.
Yeah, but not out of any sort of, not with any degree of certainty, and I think, like I said, it's solely because of the political and social landscape that female drivers have to race in, right?
Everyone's just trying to avoid being prejudiced on this question, but like, I think it is more likely that there'll be an American driver, for a number of reasons.
So, I mean, there's a lot of upcoming female talent. I didn't grab their pictures because I didn't think about this question beforehand, but
there's some huge talent.
There's Jamie Chadwick, who is, dominated the W Series, and then there's 19 other drivers that I don't know any of their names, unfortunately. And then there's Sophia Flörsch, who of course had that horror crash, but she's back to being healthy, and unfortunately has already been kicked out of the ladder to F1 just because of sponsorship issues, and I think she's over in DTM now, so we'll see how she gets on there. But I think similar problems. Go ahead.
I'd counter the argument and say that's probably more likely to see a woman in the next 10 years get into F1 in some regard, at least, because of, I'm not saying necessarily a starting driver role, but because they're now putting W Series, for example, with the Formula One calendar, certain races this year, and there is more of that push, even socially and all that, for the women in motorsports, trying to get more women engineers, and I'm not saying just all about the driving. So it'd be nice to see. I mean, knowing our luck could be an American female driver, and that ruins the entire argument.
Yeah,
for
we'll get
Both.
That's
Didn't think of both.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that I would love to see an American female driver. I think that would be a perfect driver to get into F1 at this time.
You heard it here first, Mrs. Foxworth, first American female driver.
She's not gonna be Mrs. Foxworth when she gets there, but I'm definitely proposing when she does.
I mean, she might struggle to find the pit box. Am I right?
What?
I think. She's going to do a Vettel and park outside the wrong box.
I was just making a really
yeah.
stupid joke that normally people would say.
Yeah,
I knew what you meant.
In both cases, there's no good reason why they can't. But the problem is in that phrase. There's no good reason.
Yeah.
There's loads of bad ones. And only time will tell which one happens first. But hopefully both, right? I think
So,
it'd be great to see.
Just one answer. Let's go down the line, unless anyone has any other comments to make. Not RaGe, because they're terrible comments that you're gonna make.
I think it's perfectly possible. For a female driver, I think it's been such a long time now that it will just take someone taking a risk. Nobody really knows until one gets put in.
The platform is there
as
for
to
them
what
now
kind
as well.
of. Yeah, absolutely. There's no
Maybe.
reason why not,
Yeah.
but unless someone gives someone the chance,
These are
then
very
they'll never,
long,
they'll never
one-word
dispel
answers.
this myth.
They're getting they've got a bit more of a platform to actually show the speed. I think that's the thing that's going to count the most towards getting a female driver into Formula One is, there's series out there now that are showcasing that the talent is there. So hopefully that will pay dividends for the sport and for the sportswomen.
I'm more excited to see a female driver than an American one. Sorry, Fox.
I didn't say which one you're more excited
I
to
mean,
see.
Fox is so sexist to say the other way around. I can't believe you'd come out and say that.
I'm just like, what do you think? That's the difference. What
I'm very disappointed with your point of view, Fox.
All right, since no one is going to say anything, I'm going to say.
I think it to put it. I think it's massively more likely we'll see an American come through.
Yeah.
I don't think that should be the case, but I think it is probably the case.
I think it would be cooler to see a woman, but it would be more realistic to see a man. American man.
It'd be great to see a woman step into that driver role, but yeah, I do think the American driver would get it necessarily because of the bad reasons.
I mean, let's be honest. I'm pretty sure that if you stuck any American in there, if you stuck any woman in there, they'd do better than Mazepin is right now. So I'll leave on that.
I'm pretty sure I would do better than Mazepin.
Hey, you're a consistent podium finisher, so.
But I mean, yeah.
So I'm gonna leave on that note. It definitely seems like, I mean, there isn't
third rail of sports commentary there. By the way, we need to probably avoid that one.
Why? I mean, it's just a general question. I mean, there's two initiatives that are coming out. Stefano Domenicali was talking about getting an American in F1, and he was talking about getting a female in F1, and it's a legit question of which one is going to happen first. Which
I love it that both of those things are talked about in the same sentence.
Yeah, they're just different ends of the scale, right? I think.
I know,
but both just as hard.
Well,
I mean, it's just there's an issue. I was just curious what you guys thought on these initiatives that are coming out. I don't understand why it's like a faux pas to say these. I mean, because everyone knows that there's these stigma, not stigmatism,
Word.
on
I preferred stigmatism.
yeah,
I'm going to use it all the time.
there are astigmatisms in the way that old white people view sports.
Yeah, I think it's just difficult for four blokes to talk about women.
That's why I let you go so awkwardly first.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can bring in a female next time. That's fine.
Please don't.
It's not. It's a very unreasonably divisive subject, and I think unfortunately the reality is when we do get a woman that deserves to be in Formula One and she makes it into Formula One, that's not the news isn't going to be overwhelmingly positive, and that's just down to the atmosphere that she's going to be moving into, and
she's gonna have to face so much doing it, isn't it?
I mean, it's probably going to be a
To be
similar.
criticised even more.
It's going to be a similar uphill battle as to like Lewis Hamilton almost. Like anything that Hamilton does, it's under twice as much scrutiny as the other drivers.
And you saw it with Danica Patrick. She's a very divisive personality in IndyCar.
Oh my goodness, you want to get on the wrong side of her, would you?
Yeah, and she was for her whole career, and
she was quick in IndyCar. It was her transition to NASCAR that kind of ruined her legacy.
There's a whole load of less savoury news articles about her that never would have been written.
About any other driver.
Otherwise, yeah. So
yeah.
And that's in a sport that it doesn't have the international following that that F1 does. And I think I can't remember who said it, but I think it is going to be more akin to the struggles that Lewis Hamilton went through in his early years of his career with the blackface and stuff like that than it is to anything else.
I mean,
and an American driver making it to Formula One's gonna comparatively just breeze through, right?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like we make fun of Mazepin all the time, but I mean, if a female driver came in there and was spinning all the time, there'd be so many jokes about women not being able to drive, and that would be
it'd be horrendous. Yeah,
it'd be the only thing on the internet.
I don't think you could get away with that these days. I honestly don't think there will be. No. Can you imagine the uproar if people came out and said
you think it'd be the opposite? Everyone would be super protective over it.
Yeah.
Maybe the mainstream media.
With this current, no, I don't think so.
But
if someone
internet at large, really?
Yeah.
Have you not been on the internet recently?
Yeah, it's full of social justice warriors. If someone like WTF1 would post a meme about a woman spinning their car, their
I'm not talking
social
about
media would
people like that. I'm talking.
Well, that's where it would start, though, wouldn't it?
I'm talking about like the people with like, just like eggs for their Twitter profiles posting about like a bunch of memes and stuff.
Do you think some stupid memes will get put around about how women can't drive? But the thing is, those won't get followed on the popular media pages because they'll be too scared to post them.
I mean,
at least you can put Mazepin stuff because it's funny, right? Because it's Mazepin, but you can't put, Mary can't drive because she's a woman on those same websites that will get them popular.
I mean,
I think it would be the complete opposite.
I think somebody would. I don't think it would be as much of a meme.
Get away anywhere else.
What?
You might be able to get away with those kind of memes and all that kind of stuff on 4chan. That'd be the only place because they accept anything like that. But generally, it would get blanked out.
I think a Facebook page, like Hardy said, they just wouldn't want to touch those kind of memes. Like they'll get deleted straight away. Like people wouldn't want to touch that because
you
of
have
the
a
social...
lot of faith in the internet.
I've got a lot of faith in people not wanting to destroy their careers because of something that they said that could be looked at as being discriminatory towards women these days.
Yeah, there is massive cancel culture and all this stuff going on right now.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a minefield.
I think it's probably time to take a hard turn into meme alley rather than
yeah.
Oh God, I thought we just had a quick fancy roundup. We've still got memes to go.
Yeah, I can't.
I need to go to bed.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So just quick shout out to F3 that came back. Juan Melcorrea returning. Let's go through the fantasy lineup. Obviously, not a huge bit of change. A lot of people staying right around where they were. The big news is Jay is in the lead.
I am.
In lead by 31 points. So, how do you plan on staying there for the rest of the season?
Exactly how I got there. Just stick with my original team.
All right.
And get lucky.
So, and of course, RaGe hates us all and didn't want to do Fantasy F1, so he's not on the list. But I'm in 7th. Hardy is in 10th, losing a place to Kagan. and then Dan is in 6th. Well, me and Dan just stayed stable there, and then Bacon going up 2 places, and everyone else pretty much just stayed the same. So, anyways, if you want to join that, you can. There's a prize that hasn't been figured out, so maybe it'll be 1 Dogecoin. Who knows?
That's enticing to get people. There's a prize. There'll be something.
I don't know, because I feel like if I offer like F1 2021 keys, but it's like it's gonna be half a year old at that point at the end of this. But yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyways, let's move on to memes, and it looks like we have some late entries for memes. I will load those in as we get to them, but let's start at the top. So we got a meme here of, I guess everyone can see it. It's in discussion F1. You guys see it? Everyone there?
That's it.
So it's obviously the cat meme stuck in the window. It says Bottas enjoying P2, and it says Valtteri, it's James, and then it gets pulled out. Everyone see that? Good?
I wouldn't use the word good. I think that's a bit strong.
You know my views on this section. So.
What does that mean?
So we give some bonos. I'm going to give that a 5 bono.
Let's get some bonos in the house.
Nah, 0 bonos.
I guess 5 just for the face of the cat rather than the actual like text.
So, okay,
I'll give it a 4 bonos.
That's a 5 bonos for the meme template and not the meme.
No, it's like 4 for the meme template plus the 1 of the meme.
That is memes, isn't it?
So I will give it a 2 bono for P2. RaGe?
I actually really enjoyed the cat meme. How many memes out of memes are we giving them? Sorry.
10.
Oh yeah, good 9.
Wow. All right, so that's like an average of like 5, I think, maybe less.
I don't know. Is there any like long-term point to this? Just wondering. Are we going to get like?
I don't know. That's up to Hardy. I'm not keeping track of this.
At the end of the season, is it like these are our top 5 memes, or are these just completely as pointless as scores as the memes themselves?
I'm pretty sure the top 5 memes this season might include a couple of Mazda spins, you know. So.
Well, we don't know if we're not tracking the scores.
We'll get right on it then. There won't be a prize.
Sorry, I'm
that cat meme's the best one out of all of them.
we got Boffins working in the factory on the points. Don't worry.
It's fine. I'm joking. I'll just carry on.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess the
Next meme, classic Cars meme.
I don't even get it.
I don't.
You have to have seen the film to understand it.
Oh, it's just he's really good and they're all surprised.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I know it's not a meme, but it's pit related. Did anyone see Mick Schumacher hit his pit marker wrong?
And apologise.
I heard the apology. I didn't see it happen.
Yeah, he almost killed someone. Bless him.
Yeah, I mean we've seen worse recently, right?
All right.
So I'll give that 3 bonos going back to that image.
Okay.
I can get one meme.
Right, I have to give it 1. I don't get it because I haven't seen the film.
I'll give it 5 bonos. I liked it a little
Did
better.
you just give that one more than the cat meme?
Yes, I liked it better than the cat meme.
Oh Jesus.
Did Dan already give a score?
2 out of mono.
2 out of bono. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So next meme we got here is a Simpsons meme.
I don't really get it, but yeah.
You have to get the context where
It's a GIF, right?
Well, in that context of the episode, Homer does catch up to Ned in a car. So the idea is obviously they'd be catching up and chasing them.
I think if you have to explain the joke, it's not a great joke.
So what they've done there is they've got this thing called Photoshop. They've taken the heads off.
Oh my goodness! You mean this wasn't a real photo?
Picture is something from a well-known American sitcom, The Simpsons. And what they've done quite hilariously there has made Lewis Hamilton chase them like he did in the race.
Oh gosh.
Has anyone seen that Dogecoin has just fallen through the floor again?
Oh god.
I will say though, because of Jay's explanation, I'm gonna give that 10 bonos just for the explanation.
I'm gonna give it 0 bonos.
I was going low, yeah, too.
All right. there's some extra memes coming in late entries.
Oh, good. More.
I think we don't need to extend the the feature.
All right, let me hide these. Okay, did everyone rate that one? It doesn't matter. I think I got like 0. All right, so the next one
My
is
alarm goes off.
Well,
in
no, it
6
got
hours,
10
so that's-
apparently.
we got 7.
Next name itself would get 2.
We got 7. So this next one is Monaco. The people of Monaco currently reinforcing their apartments with steel in preparation of Mazepin. It's not really
It's
a
not a
meme.
meme, it's
just
a
a tweet.
comment, but this is going to get my highest bonos 8. I like this.
It's got good bonos. 8 bonos.
I'll give 6.
Let's say 9 bonos for realism and predictive qualities.
Has that ever do you think like an aeroplane crash could actually get over the fence and into an apartment? Like
I mean, it's Dan's prediction for Monaco. So.
that's
Yeah,
that-
I reckon a part
Yeah.
could definitely fly off into a apartment. Yeah, a wheel maybe.
does that
Bounce
instantly
off the back of a
become
car.
does that become your part if it lands on your balcony?
Yeah,
I mean, we basically saw it in Macau a few years ago, right?
yeah.
True.
Completely
Exactly
missed
that.
the catch fencing and went straight into a photographer's booth.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Monaco doesn't have any catch fencing, does it?
Nope.
not to that
Really?
extent. No, it's got
It's
some.
got a size 5 model called Senorita.
Okay, moving on to the next
What?
one. Come over, my parents aren't home. I can't. Why? Mazepin is blocking the road.
1.
Wow.
Wow.
Give it a solid 5. Oh.
I was gonna give this one a 9 for his number.
I give that a 10. Because it's just it's more the fact that I just imagine if you were on the road and everyone's just honking because Mazepin's blocking the road. It seems really funny.
This is very likely, but I think that's the reason they've made the meme to joke about that.
I was just looking at the turn 10 changes, thinking it was a meme, but it's not. It's just the turn 10 changes.
So if
I
you
can't give the previous one like 10 bonos for predictive qualities and not give this one 10 bonos for the same reason.
So, if you scroll down to the bottom of this chat, Hardy's added a couple last-minute memes. So I need to resize these so that people can see it at home.
Oh, there's a lot of writing on this.
Yeah. Finally, a new season. Red Bull will beat Mercedes, and Verstappen will be a title fight. Mercedes has some problems with new regs. It looks promising. Merc has it all figured out, and RB is slowly falling off. Ham, Ver, Bot. Red Bulls are giving us a really hard time. Yeah, we just don't have the pace. Get in there, Lewis. X-time world champ. Next season surely will be better. That's just
And the
depressing.
cycle continues.
If a meme reminds me of work, it's getting 0 bonos, and this reminds me too much of work.
Too much of a
That's-
flowchart for you.
That's a 0 as well. That I don't
No
even be
bonus.
depressed.
I'm gonna give it 5.
One.
It does have the now here, just
Oh, now here. I didn't see that. That'll be fair. I'll retract my 0 and give it a -1.
I feel like I've seen this with the various stages of the software development lifecycle on, so I can't give it more than 0.
All right. Final meme.
Fucked.
Final meme. I can't even read this. What does this say? It's so blurry. Thanks for a newspaper helmet. Let's see. We have fresh disaster. We have got today. No. Mercedes expect Lewis Hamilton to start new 2-year deal for 2022 by August. Okay. Interesting.
Two bonos because it's not a surprise. He was always going to sign a 2-year deal at this point because next year there's new rules and it might take them a year to figure it out. So
I'll give it a 3 for the art style.
Yeah, I'll give it a 4.
No, Rage. It's too late. It's too late.
submissions are closed.
Oh,
At this point.
hang on. Let Rage do it if he can do the goofy voice.
Oh my goodness.
No.
All right, hang on.
No.
Oh my goodness.
I can't be loud.
You can whisper it.
Hang
You
on.
can't whisper Goofy.
I
It's
gotta...
it's got swearing in it as well, so that one's just an after class meme.
No, it's already in there. It's coming. Hang on.
There's an even better one for just for Hardy. This one's just for
Oh
Hardy.
my goodness.
No. And
All right, never mind. We're done.
That is getting 10 bonos.
We're done. We're done with memes. No one gets to see the memes. You have to join Foxworth Sport Content Discord to see these memes. They're exclusive to our Discord. So if you want to do podcasts for us, you can see the memes.
We've been
All I will
podcasting
say-
so
all I
long
will
that I'm
say-
hungry.
Got hungry again.
All
It's
I
like-
will say is that the meme game has been awful this week. From where I get these from. They're the best. They were just awful.
I think Jamie would be like, this week?
So
Yeah.
that is all for this week.
What? Sorry, I'm so tired. I don't even get what you said. What did you?
This has been awful this week?
Oh.
So
Yeah, I can't tell the difference between a good meme and a bad meme. They're all terrible in my book.
yeah. No. I'm definitely not putting that on screen. That is a RaGe exclusive meme. So that is all for this week. I was expecting about an hour-long podcast, starting 30 minutes early, and get out of here by 10:30. That did not happen. Everyone is exhausted over in Britain, so I thank you for your time. I was not expecting a 5-person podcast, and I think it shows with how long we talked on Perez. I think that was half our stream, or half our recording, was the discussion on Perez. Oh my goodness. Why? No. I can't add these. These are so much better than the actual memes we show.
I mean, I am
It's
the
time to
king.
Press end.
So that is all for this week. We have a week off. Monaco's 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away, something. It's a ways off. I want to give a shout out to our 2 patrons, Mario and Son of Perdition. If you want to donate to our Patreon, you can help support us and make this better. Definitely not longer. if you want 1 hour long succinct podcast,
I was going to say, do we do an hour for every Patreon again?
yeah, no, it's going to do the opposite. If you want these shorter, you have to pay us. We'll pay us to talk less. So I hope you enjoyed the extended podcast. It should be returning back to Hardy as host, and probably down to 2 or 3 guests. Well, 2 or 3 total people on the podcast. 5 is a little busy, but it was a great conversation, so thank you all for showing up. I think we covered...
More memes next time.
What?
Plenty more memes next time, Monaco?
Plenty more memes. I sure hope so. I'm not the meme king, so I'm sure that it will be back to quality. So, yep, and of course you can check out all our
Debatable.
races and yeah, keep up to date with the team on the Discord and everything. So, thanks everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you in Monaco.